Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're talking about Kyle. Because after Annie stormed out of their last fight in tears over how messed up Kyle is,
he's just so messed up.
This episode, we see Kyle try to make amends by manipulating the situation and by getting an STD test.
I'm getting an STD test. I want to show some honesty.
You just can't make this stuff up. So let's talk about it. We pick back up with Annie and Kyle in the middle of their last fight in the clothing store, where Annie had to storm out in disgust after calling Kyle out for his savior complex.
Who are you? Like, you're the savior of the world and you have to give all women babies? I mean...
The producers ask her why she's crying right now, and she says she just can't take it with Kyle anymore.
I can't understand why he can't clearly say, you know what, I will stop donating for you because I love you, you know? That's what you do. If you love someone, you just go and sacrifice.
Annie's mad that Kyle refuses to stop having sex with other women in their committed relationship. But Kyle doesn't see it that way. Kyle is also asked what's going on while Annie is out there crying, and he says,
I think in a perfect world, she would just accept me.
If you've watched my other videos on Kyle at this point, then you know how much I hate that response. This isn't about accepting you, Kyle. This is about your actions. You are having sex with other people while in a committed monogamous relationship, and you lied about doing it. This isn't about her not accepting who you are. He has a problem with how your actions impact the relationship. And for him to paint it like she's just not accepting of who he is feels like he's manipulating the situation to make himself seem like the victim. Also, keep in mind, this isn't about him just being a polygamous person and her just not accepting that about him. This is his hobby. This isn't a poly thing with him. He just wants the power and to raise his incel army. In my opinion, of course. Also, even if we pretend like this donating sperm hobby of his actually is some core value about him that he just wants his partner to accept, why sleep with the girls then, huh? Why not just settle for artificial insemination then, buddy? You still get to donate sperm, you still get to pursue your life's weird-ass meaning or value, whatever that is, but only difference is that in one situation you get laid and the other one you don't. Oh, I just want her to accept me for who I am and my need to sleep with other girls. Grab me a fucking river, dude.
I think in a perfect world, she would just accept me. If you're honest, you're trustworthy, and you talk to me about it, then it's fine donating.
But you weren't honest about it. You lied about having sex with the girl in Australia. And you slept with a girl in the UK before you even flew out to meet her. Even in Kyle's ideal scenario, Annie still shouldn't accept his bullshit. Annie catches her breath, calms down a bit, and eventually comes back to talk to Kyle. Kyle makes some weird faces and looks at the camera a few more times, when Kyle tells us that he's willing to make some sacrifices for Annie, but that cutting donating off cold turkey might be too much.
I am willing to make some compromises, though. Maybe Annie gets to choose who I donate to. There are things I am willing to compromise on. Giving up donating forever would just be very difficult.
And while the idea of Annie being put in a position where she can okay what girls Kyle can go be with feels really wrong to me, I guess it is a compromise. So I guess I have to give him props for that. I guess when you're with someone like this, I don't know what other kind of compromises you could do. I mean, just don't be with this guy to begin with. Annie feels very emotional and cries a bit and says she's very conflicted because on the one hand, she sees so much potential in them and wants to give it a shot.
I see so much potential in Kyle and what we could make out of this relationship.
But on the other hand, can't decide if that's worth sacrificing her feelings and core beliefs.
I have to choose if I continue to be with the man I love, then sacrifice my feelings and core beliefs.
Here's a really hot take for you. If your relationship requires you to sacrifice your feelings and give up your core values as a person, probably not a good relationship. Compromise on chores or where you want to go eat for dinner or how messy you like to keep the kitchen, not who you are as a person. There are other people out there for you, Annie. Don't abandon yourself for this disgusting little gremlin. She tells Kyle she's worried and doesn't want to get hurt.
I just don't want to get hurt by this experience with you.
Okay.
Episode 6 starts off with Annie doing some yoga to cleanse her mind, body, and soul of the ghastly ooze that is sperm donor Kyle Gordy, something that I think we all could use at this point, when she reminds us all that she just wants Kyle to stop donating through sex.
I want Kyle to stop donating through sex.
And doesn't understand why Kyle can't just give her a straight answer about not doing it anymore.
Somehow he can't give me like a final answer. So we're like stuck in this. What we are going to do, how we can make it work.
Meanwhile, while Annie is cleansing her body, Kyle wants to prove that his body is already fully cleansed by getting himself an STD test at the hospital. Why is Kyle getting an STD test right now, you may ask? Well, as you recall, Kyle recently came clean to Annie about that whole natural insemination thing that happened in Australia.
I've had intercourse to get somebody pregnant in Australia.
But what Kyle failed to mention at the time is that that Australian girl wasn't the only one.
But what Annie doesn't know is that there's other women I donated naturally to recently.
And now, after Annie caught Kyle lying and forced him to tell the truth,
Yes or no, it's not that difficult.
now Kyle values honesty all of a sudden and plans to tell Annie the truth about the other girls.
I plan on telling Annie about the other woman because I want to show some honesty.
But, given how Annie reacted the first time, Kyle is understandably worried about how telling Annie about these other girls is gonna go.
I think she may react kind of harshly when she finds out.
So Kyle, in his infinite genius wisdom, thinks it would be a good idea to bring an STD test with him to buffer the conversation.
So I'm getting an STD test. I think it's a good buffer. It did natural donations, but I'm STD free, and here's the results. I think she'll react well because you'll see how responsible I am, and there's really nothing to worry about.
Can you imagine being this delusional? What kind of mindset do you have to even consider this? How do I tell my partner that I've been lying about having unprotected sex with other women in our relationship? I got it. I'll bring an STD test with me to prove how responsible I am and to prove to her that she has nothing to worry about? Bro, that is not why she doesn't want you to have sex with other women. That's not the point. Can you imagine hearing that from Annie's perspective? Hey, so I know I slept with all those other girls and lied to you about it, but I brought this STD test with you to show that, we're fine. So, we're fine now, right? Bitch, no, we ain't fine. What is Kyle thinking? That Annie's gonna be like, oh, well, yeah, you cheated, but at least you didn't give me gonorrhea, so thanks for that. Like, what, is she supposed to be grateful? Meanwhile, while Kyle's planning his big reveal, Annie meets up with her yoga friend, Steph, to talk about Kyle and their train wreck of a relationship. And Annie spills the tea. But not how you'd expect. Because of all the things that she could start with in criticizing Kyle and the relationship, the first criticism she has for him is that he's not affectionate enough.
We are trying to make it work, but I'm used to more affection by a man. If I can't get the affection I need, that's not working out.
Not affectionate enough? Of all the things you could criticize Kyle for, of all the red flags that we've seen from him all season long, and if you need a refresher on all of his red flags, I made a convenience Kyle Gordy playlist for you right here, you can check out after. Her first complaint is lack of affection. That's pretty weird. I hope that she's at least complaining that maybe he's not as warm or cuddly as she's used to, and not complaining that they just haven't had sex quickly enough. Because she has brought that up on previous episodes, and if that's the first complaint that she has about the whole relationship, then, I don't even want to go there. The second thing Annie brings up with her friend is the whole sperm donation thing, and tells the friend about Kyle lying about what happened in Australia.
We had sex with another woman in Australia.
And even speculates that Kyle may be lying about much more.
In fact, he probably not just had sex with one woman, I think if you're saying it's one, then it's maybe 3 or 4,
The friend, who's known Annie for a decade now, thinks Annie is too forgiving about the whole thing.
If Annie has a connection with someone, she's very forgiving.
And also has some very interesting insight on Annie and her past with men.
It might be that she needs a challenge. If she has a challenge, she puts in lots of effort. That's her. If
you recall from my last video on Kyle and Annie, then that's exactly what I thought. I hypothesized that Annie may be the kind of person that, whether due to childhood or whatever previous relationships in her life, may associate love with stress and difficulty, and may see the kind of healthy, safe, reciprocal kind of love as boring. And hearing her friend say that Annie likes to go all in on challenging relationships, that would be consistent. Annie says her heart wants to keep trying things with Kyle and see where it goes, but her head is saying she may be better off alone.
Your head tells her to run, but her heart tells her to stay with Kyle and to build a relationship with him. In my opinion, the heart always wins.
And while normally that's a romantic notion, in this scenario, it kind of feels like a prison sentence. And unfortunately, that's the end of the episode. I know. 2 episodes in a row, and we only get one Kyle scene in each episode? What a travesty. That's why I'm working on a very special kind of Kyle video for you all soon, where I watch his episode on Dr. Phil, so you don't have to, and share a very damning podcast episode he was on a few years ago, with a lot of pretty juicy and incriminating information on him, so stick around for that. That video should be out this Saturday, so I hope to see you all then. Let me know what you thought about Kyle and Annie in the comments down below. A big thank you to all of you channel members for helping support this channel and making the channel grow, with an extra special thank you to Nancy Jones for being a producer of this channel. And until next time, I'll see you later.